If you've done a bank loan, it's just brain damage. Like, they ask you for so much stuff, and I hated getting bank debt. If you have some discomfort and pain in your life, do not just sit with it and power through it every time. Think about that pain and let that pain be a guidepost in your life to say, is there a better way to do this?
Hello and welcome to another episode of Multifamily Strategy. I am your host, Christian Osgood, today joined with one of my really good friends, Wanot. Jan runs Wari. He owns a ton of mobile homes. This guy is great at creative finance. I'm super excited for this episode. So Jan, welcome to the channel, man.
Thank you so much, Christian. I made it to the big leagues. Mom, here I am.
I have spoken at several of Jan's events. Jan is the big leagues. This guy can host events and community like no other, which is something I really want to dive into in this podcast. Jan, let's start with where you got started, and I want to dive into how you built the community that you built, because what you've done in Washington State is absolutely unparalleled. You are the premium brand for community and investor community, Washington State. Wari is it. For those out of state, that is where everyone goes. Biggest Facebook page, most consistent events. Your attendance is fantastic. I'm really excited to talk about how you got there. How did you actually start? Before you had all the real estate, what did life look like for Jan?
Sure. Well, Polish immigrant, came to this country with nothing. People say, hey, I started from zero and now look at what I have. And I wish I started from zero. I started from negative. So, when I was 18, I tried to get a credit card and they were like, sir, you can't get credit. You have a $48,000 judgment against your name. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm 18. I've never had credit. And turns out, well, my dad has the same first and last name, and they wrongfully put one of his judgments on my name. And so it took me 6 months to get to zero. Okay. And then I started building something. So I wish I started from nothing. I started from less than nothing. And I went to school. I was always grew up very poor, on Section 8 and food stamps, and slept in a living room and was homeless for a bit and all of that. And so once I became a teenager, I was like, I don't want this anymore. I want something better. And so I was always kind of focused on understanding financial literacy, understanding what it was going to take to get me out of this, what it was, and not only just get me from surviving, not get me just out of what I was into surviving, but into thriving. So what were the money and investment habits of the wealthy? What do rich people do that I don't do? I became obsessed with that. I became very interested in studying that, and so that's what I did. And I went to college and I got a marketing degree and a computer science degree, and then I got a job, and it became very, very clear very, very quickly that I could not build wealth just having a job. Even a high-paying job was not going to be enough. And so during my free time on nights and weekends, I did my 9 to 5 at Boeing, and then I did my 5 to 9 working on myself, working on a side hustle. And so I tried various businesses and I failed at various businesses. And then I thought to myself, hey, I've read books on investing. I've looked at Bigger Pockets. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try my hand at real estate investment. So that's what I did.
How much were you making at that W-2, out of curiosity? He said, what is good money at that time for
Oh yeah, good money. I mean, I was making 63 grand first job out of college, and I was shocked. That was amazing for me,
More than I made out of college.
Yeah. So it was good. I was like, this is cool. This is the American dream until kind of the magic wears off. It's like getting a new car. You're like enthralled for 3 months, and then you're like, oh, it's just a car, right? And so it's like getting a new pair of shoes, and you're like, oh, I have to keep them perfect and clean. And then after 2 weeks, you're like, screw these shoes. I don't care. They're just shoes. And so once the magic wore off of, oh, I got a job out of college, I was like, oh, I'm making 60 grand a year. I'm saving 20 grand a year because I moved back in with my mom. How many years until I have $1 million at this savings rate? Well, $1 million divided by 20 grand is 50 years. I was like, this isn't going to work for me. And so that's
No.
when everything changed, and I had to realize I have to stop trading my time directly for money, and I have to start having money make me money.
And $1 million in 50 years is not going to go nearly as far. Not even kind of as far. So that's yeah. There needs to be a better plan. How much money do you think someone would need to make in a W-2 to not need to have a side hustle? I'm curious what that number is. I got to almost 200,000 at the end of my sales career,
Yeah.
and it only got me 2 duplexes. So I
Mhm.
assume it's more than that. But where
Right.
do you think you need to be to do that? Like Dave Ramsey's, just save your way to wealth and do it in
Yeah.
a reasonable time. How much do you think you need to make a year?
I think if you're basically guaranteed 500K a year, you can live your life and be okay with not doing anything else. And maybe you like your, I mean, I have friends that make 500. I've made 500K in a year, and I was like, okay, great. I could, like, if I could sustain this level of income in perpetuity, um, I could live a really comfortable life and have enough for investing and saving and everything. And so I think 500K will get you a great lifestyle and a retirement and investments, and you won't have to have side hustles. If you're under 500K, you better start working that 5 to 9, because the 9 to 5 is going to get you mediocrity at best. And if you're okay with just having an average life, then stop listening now.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, you only get one life, so I feel like average is pretty boring. I agree with that. I think the benchmark is somewhere around 5. If you're most people and you're making less than 500K, even combined income, like husband and wife, if you guys are making 500K, I think you have the option to, if you just want a Dave Ramsey's that go debt free, you probably earn enough where you can do something beyond what is common. Other than that, you better figure something out, because we're going to keep printing money, unfortunately, and your dollar's going to be worth less and less. Your income is not going to go up to match that. You're going to have to either use leverage, or you'll do the Mark Cuban thing and have a tech company that goes off to billions of dollars. Those are pretty much your options. Jan, what was the first investment for you? So you tried some side hustles. Some of them didn't work. When you actually landed on investing, what did that first deal look like?
First, I made a commitment to what I was doing. And I made a commitment to the previous businesses I tried too. I think you have to commit to one thing and execute on that. You can't be spread so thin that you're trying to make crypto work and a landscaping business and do real estate investing. It's just like, no, you're going to be average or worse at 3 different things. So I committed to things for at least a year. I would give all of my effort into one thing for a year. And I think that was my first step, is I committed to finding a real estate investment in a year. And my first investment was a single family home, which I recommend you start with too. I think it's very risk. You can mitigate risk very easily with single family because you have so many outs, right? If you buy a mobile home park, that's not a great deal. There's not many buyers for that. If you buy a single family home that wasn't a great deal, there's still going to be buyers for it, because people like houses, and like you might lose 50K, but it's pretty simple to understand valuation of a single family home. And so I started with a single family home, and it was a house hack. And the way I found it is by defining my criteria, which was single or small multifamily in central Tacoma, under 500,000, under 50K rehab, that would cash flow $500 a month. And that was my criteria. And so that equation for you, if you haven't defined your criteria, you need to, because otherwise you don't know what you're looking for. You have to have crystal clear criteria. So the equation that I use is, what's the asset type? For me, it was single, small, multifamily. What's the location? Central Tacoma. What's your price range? Up to 500K. What's your value add? Mine was up to 50K rehab. And what's your profit metric target? And mine was 500K, $500 a month in cash flow. Okay. And that's all I looked at.
How far into that first year did it actually take for you to find the deal?
It took me about 4 or 5 months, I would say. And it took me 4 or 5 months of doing the exact same thing every day, which was looking at properties that fit my criteria. So first you have to know what you're looking for, and then you have to look for it every day. If that sounds boring, it gets a little boring. It gets a little monotonous. But guess what? I looked at single and small multifamily homes under 500K that needed a light rehab and would produce $500 of cash flow every single day. And I started noticing trends in my central Tacoma market, which were, this single family home's 200K. This one's 170. Here's one for 220. Here's one for 195. Here's one for 210. Here's one for 225. And then one popped up on Craigslist for 140,000. And it was just like all the other ones I just described. Wow. 4-bed, 2-bath. And guess what I did? Because I knew my criteria, number one, and I knew now my market, number two, I could act faster than other people because I knew exactly what was a deal and what wasn't. So that same day I saw that listing on Craigslist, I was at that seller's house in her living room negotiating the deal, and I got the contract the same day.
And that's what tends to happen when you focus up for a year on something, right? All of a sudden, it's like, okay, I'm looking, and I've made a commitment, and then, you find that one thing. Once you closed that first deal, did everything go more or less as expected? Was that just a grand slam deal, or were there any unexpected you learned along the way?
Nothing went well at all. Nothing went well. I've never done a renovation of any sort. I was 26 when I bought my first house. I was working at Boeing. I was good at Excel, and that's it. That was my skill. I was good at contracts, and I was good at Excel. And so I've never done a renovation. We hired a general I've never gotten a loan for anything. So I got a renovation loan from a bank. They gave, I put together a scope and budget. It's laughable how bad my scope was. I can't believe the bank gave me money. My brother found a contractor. That contractor ended up using like a Home Depot bucket as a permanent part of a like sump pump system in my basement. And I'm like, dude, I don't know enough about this to say if it's wrong or not, but it doesn't look right, he was on the roof fixing the roof, hitting on my 17-year-old female neighbor, and I'm like, Phil, stop, please stop doing that now. You're gonna get us all arrested here. It was just an absolute mess. Like, I was stressed every day. I could tell the work wasn't good, but I didn't know enough to really like criticize it because it was my first ever project. So super stressful, but at the end, got it fixed up, got it rented. My rent is $1,650. My mortgage is $1,150. And I'm like, the gates of heaven open up. And I'm like, I'm officially an investor. I'm cash flowing. I thought I was making $500 a month. Of course, I didn't think about CapEx, maintenance, reserves, and vacancy, right? The three silent killers of deals. I was just like, rent minus mortgage. I'm rich. Okay, $500 a month. So that was my first deal, and I still own it, and I still love it. And that was the deal that kicked off my investing journey. And I bought 10 very similar rental units that all met my criteria: Central Tacoma, under 500K, single and small multifamily with light value add that would cash flow $500 a month. Okay, I knew what I wanted, and I found in 12 months 10 units, single family, fourplex, triplex, duplex that met that criteria. Because guess what? It is all I looked at every day. I just underwrote the same boring thing, and that is how you gain success in something. You do the boring shit over and over until you can do it better than anyone else. And so that's what I figured out how to do. And that's what I've done now. I focus on mobile home parks and seller financing mobile home parks. And I do the same boring thing every day. And guess what? It works out. And we own a number of cash flowing communities that are excellent. And I'm glad I've transitioned to commercial real estate. But it all started with a very simple plan, a very simple criteria set, and then just doing the boring activities of underwriting, deal searching, and making offers and doing inspections until I got what I wanted.
So it took you a few months to get that first deal, but after that first deal, you said within a year you had picked up 10 deals like that. So you hit a pace not that far after that first deal where you were buying, what, 1 or 2 houses a month?
Yeah, well, my next deal was a fourplex. that met those criteria. Then the next one was
helps.
a duplex, and then the next one was a triplex, and they all met
Okay.
that criteria. So, yeah, I started just buying small multifamily because I figured, why not get 4 instead of 1, right?
At what point did you switch into mobile home parks? Commercial real estate, I agree with you 100%. Commercial real estate is where I like to live. Instead of 4 units, why not do 50, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to scale. You settled on mobile home parks where I have a mobile home park, but I do more in the multifamily space. Same general concept. Why mobile home parks?
Sure. Yeah, typically in America, we have a recession roughly every 10 years, historically, right? 90s, 2000s, 2008. I guess you could call something, there was probably a recession somewhere around 2020, but kind of a short-lived one. For the most part, I don't think we really had another real recession since 2008. And so since 2008, we've been on this absolutely obscene bull run. And I was, for lack of a better term, scared that a recession was going to hit and all of my single and small multifamily homes, which the values of depend partially on consumer sentiment, would get smacked and I would not be doing so hot as I thought I was. And so I thought, how can I get out of property and owning assets that are tied to people's feelings? How can I stop owning something that has that level of risk built in, which is, again, consumer sentiment, people's feelings about the market, the future, about their spending power, etc. And so that was one of the reasons. And mobile home parks, RV parks, and self-storage are what they call uncorrelated assets. And they're called that because their values are uncorrelated to the values of single-family homes. So generally, they don't move together. So single-family homes move, the value of it moves together with a lot of other variables in the market, but these uncorrelated assets supposedly do not. And so it's a good hedge against owning too much single and small multifamily residential property. Another thing is,
love that.
I had 3 washing machines break in 1 month, and I was managing all my rental units, and I was like tired of owning so much stuff. And so I thought, how can I own less and cash flow more? And mobile home parks were an answer to that, because in my mobile home parks, we just own land and utilities, and we provide a community for people to live their life. But I don't own toilets, even though I have couple hundred rental units. I don't own toilets. I don't own flooring. I don't own walls and paint and electrical systems. I just own utilities and land. And so we cash flow more, but we own less stuff that we have to maintain and fix all the time. So it's operationally easier than owning the property too, the building itself. I just like owning the land.
Do you find there's an effect on, because they're not as market correlated, do they appreciate more or less than standard multifamily buildings?
It's hard to say, Christian, because first of all, I haven't been through a full market cycle as a full-time real estate investor. So I need to humble myself and say, I don't know for sure. But I will say this, theoretically, if there is a recession, or when there is a recession next, because there will be a recession someday, the first thing people do in a recession is they cut expenses. And what is every single American's largest single line item expense? Housing. Whether it's your mortgage or it's rent, there's not a recurring monthly expense that's as expensive as your house. And so if you live in a $4,000 apartment, you can just downgrade to a $2,000 apartment, because it's not a problem for you. If you live in a $2,000 apartment, you can go to $1,000. If you live in a $1,000 apartment with your family, that's a 3-bed, 2-bath, what are you going to do? Okay, some of you are going to move. Some of you will move back to live with family. That's fine. But some folks in that situation, the next step down on the totem pole is homelessness, if you don't consider mobile home and RV parks. Okay, because I have a double wide in one of my parks that costs $410 a month. That's 3 beds, 2 baths, 1,400 square feet. Okay, $410. Okay, that is the backbone of American affordable housing. Mobile home and RV parks are the backbone of that product sector. We absolutely need them because in a recession, if people need to downgrade their expenses and downgrade their housing, we are a catch-all. We are catching folks and providing them clean, safe, and affordable communities to live in for half the price of the typical apartment of the same size.
Well, and that's the thing that I love about because I'm in entry level housing, and it was the same logic. I do a lot of stuff where I fix up beat up properties. I make a less expensive place than my competitors. There's really nowhere for them to go except for mobile home parks or homelessness, and there are some fantastic, like truly fantastic parks. It can be a really great way for someone to actually live in a larger space for less, and you're able to have some efficiencies because as a landlord, your expenses look a lot different than they do when you have to maintain a building. How long ago was it that you bought your first park, and how many parks you have? I know you have a couple hundred units. How many purchases is a couple hundred units for Yon?
Yeah, so our first park was in 2020. After I made that decision, it took about 4 months to get our first deal done. Kind of like, when I committed to single family. I was like, I'm going to find my first single family deal. It took me about 4 months to find that 1st house on Craigslist. And same thing with mobile home parks. If you really commit to something, you define your criteria, you're going to find that first deal. The first deal actually wholesaled to a friend of mine. I wish I didn't, of course, as most good wholesales. Years later, you look back and you're like, I made 30 grand, and now they have like $500,000 in equity for doing nothing. Cool. Okay, no. Yeah. Why did I wholesale that? Great. So that's how that goes. If you're getting paid a really big wholesale fee, it's because the next guy is going to make a ton of money on it. Okay, so consider trying to keep some of those wholesales that you think are killer. Any which way, 2020 we bought our first park. First one was a wholesale. Second one we found by just cold calling and making a connection, and someone offloaded their headache to us, and we were happy to buy it. They were really fighting us hard on the price. They wanted $450, and we're like, God, why do these guys want $450 for a 20 unit? And then we show up, and it's actually like a 30 unit, and they just weren't aware of it because they paid so little attention to it. So now we're like, oh, $450 is actually a great price for the 30 unit. And that was our first park. And the second one was a 43 unit, same thing, off-market cold call, seller finance, just like the first one. The third one was 51 units, off-market cold call, seller finance. Are you noticing a pattern here?
Yeah, I am.
The next one was a 42 unit, off-market cold call, seller financed. And so we own 7 communities, closing on the 8th this month. They're smaller communities, okay? These are not institutional quality assets, okay? These are 30 to 50 unit sites that we're getting at steep discounts direct from owners. We're cleaning them up. We're putting in professional management. We have 5 full-time employees that are professional managers that live near the communities and make them great. And that's kind of where we've been operating. And the next step is getting into a little bit bigger assets, right? So we're hoping to break into our first 100 units soon. But for now, we are having a great time buying cash flowing assets in that 30 to 60 unit range.
Why seller financing on all these? Is there a reason that you did that over bank financing? Down payment, interest rates? What is it about seller financing that made you go the creative finance route?
I don't like banks. Have you had?
I can't imagine why.
If you've done a bank loan, it's just brain damage. Like they ask you for so much stuff, and that if you have some discomfort and pain in your life, do not just sit with it and power through it every time. Think about that pain and let that pain be a guidepost in your life to say, is there a better way to do this? Because pain is a great guidepost, but if you just push through it and just get through it every time without rethinking it, then you're going to just keep encountering the same pain. And I hated getting bank debt. It's just a freaking nightmare every time. And they can pull the rug at the 11th hour. And I hated not having control and not knowing what their magical underwriting committee with their oracle in their freaking cauldron in the middle was thinking or doing, and why they would change their mind at the last second. And so I thought, let's take control of this process and let's work with individuals, not institutions. Let's pay interest to people that I think deserve it more than the big banks. I want people to continue earning cash flow from an asset that they worked hard to acquire and build up. Why not continue earning cash flow and let a new professional operator make sure they continue to get that cash flow and be a good steward of their community? Like every time, 100% of the time we've bought something, we've made it better. I can guarantee you that. And 100% of the time, the seller has gotten paid on time every single month. I haven't missed a payment in my life. And we're going to continue to do that. So why not? There's only benefits to everyone involved. And we absolutely love to work with individuals as opposed to institutions.
I absolutely agree with that. One of the best things about seller financing is you've already negotiated and got approved for your terms when you sign. So there's no question mark of, is the bank going to do this? I've had a bank loan where they actually scheduled a day of signing, and then they didn't sign, and they stopped communicating with us for 2 days. And we came back and they're like, "Oh no, you passed underwriting. We would love to lend to you." The VP just didn't like the fact that you have 8 seller finance notes. We don't know what that means for us. I'm like, it means nothing for you. It's unrelated to this property. That was their actual reason. Their VP looked at our books. They're like, seller financing. There's a lot of seller financing here. I don't want to be the first bank to lend to them. It's like, who cares? We passed underwriting. Yeah, they literally ghosted us on our signing date. They just didn't show up. So, yeah, very weird. So I don't like that because that's obviously significantly after earnest money went hard.
Right.
On a deal, they're like, yeah. Now, fortunately, I was able to work with the seller on it. We did eventually find new financing. We got the deal closed.
Good.
But it took. I could have just lost all the earnest money. There's nothing that was way out of my control.
Right.
I can't control a bank. You have so much control over it, and naming your terms. There's some deals that it's like if you went on terms, you can get crazy cash flow, and you can just do deals that other people can't do. Have you had any deals that worked specifically because of the seller finance terms where they would not have worked with a bank?
I think all of them. I think all of them. Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think of the exception to that rule. Gosh, for sure. Right now, if we're struggling really hard to make cash out deals work. We've tied up a couple this year and they fell apart as soon as the bank looked at it, and so because the seller was just stuck on cash, they want cash out, and we're like, we'll do our best. Okay, we'll do our best, but as soon as we sign it up with a cash out for you, we lose most of the control in the financing piece of this deal. And if we have seller financing, we retain control of the process, and we perform every time. I just haven't had seller finance deals fall apart.
Yep.
So
it's hard for them to fall apart. You really have to screw something up because everything's already agreed on. They've signed for it.
Correct. There has to be something crazy happen in inspection, right? But if it's never due to debt terms that that the seller finance deals fall apart. Never.
I've had handshake deals where we get to signing and people retrade things, but I've never had it materially affect the deal. Where we've always been able to put together something that made sense.
Yeah.
Seller financing is a fantastic way to close a deal.
Totally.
Through your journey, what is the thing that you think you are the best at, and how has that grown your business?
Great question. I would say one of my gifts is fostering community and managing community. And so that's kind of what I've done. As soon as I got started with real estate investment, I would go to all the meetups, which is about one per week. And I would ask everyone questions and just be curious and try to be value add. And then I was like, dang, I still have more questions though. I still want to connect with these investors because I don't know what I'm doing and they do. And I really want to figure out how to add value to their lives. And so what I did was I added 5 or 10 of the people that I met on Facebook into a Facebook group called Washington Real Estate Investing or WA Real Estate Investing, WARI. And they were like, what is this? And I was like, well, I just thought we could continue the discussion in here. And they're like, I guess it's kind of weird. I was like, oh, they're not going to like this until I set the tone. until I create value for them first, and then maybe they'll reciprocate, maybe. And so I realized, oh, I need to start sharing my journey, things I'm learning, create content for other people to enjoy and learn from, and then maybe I'll get blessed with some of that in return. And that's what I started doing, is just creating content, sharing what I'm learning, sharing my journey, asking questions, and then people started to get the hint, oh, okay, yeah, this is a good place for us to do this too. And the group has grown organically from 5 or 10 people that I manually added to now 20,000 people. And we have a great place for you to meet your next partner, contractor, architect, engineer, for you to find your next deal. We have had thousands of off-market deals come through the page. Some good, some not so good, just like any other marketplace. But guess what? I've personally made lifelong friends through the group. I've personally gotten insane deals from the group. And we host events that a lot of people derive value from. I host a masterclass on how to get started with real estate investing for those that want a little bit more structured approach, and some guidance. And so, yeah, the group has grown into its own living, breathing thing, and it's a great community that I hope to just continue to create value for. That's my main mission, and I think that's why the community thrives, is because that is my main mission, is to create value for others.
That was one of the first things that I was told to do when right after I bought my first duplex. This was in 2020. I bought my first duplex. I was like, okay. I was like, where do I find more? They're like, okay, well, you need to get connected with a couple brokers, and you need to be in the Walry group. I was like, what's that? And they're like, oh, well, they just have to accept you. They accept a lot of people. Just reach out, and then you get plugged in. And I was like, I've met so many investors through Walry. Some of them have actually even funded some of my deals. Like they're people who I've partnered with at some point, and it's like, I'm not even that good at using Facebook or doing the online networking thing. I market a lot, but I'm not like on social media.
Sure.
Walry is amazing, and it is just being in the industry in Washington State. It's kind of just the commonly accepted, like, oh, you're an investor, you're part of this group. Like, it's industry standard. How you did that on Facebook is insane to me. But it is. It's just a fantastic community. People are on it, like, posting all the time, every day. And it's not just deals. Like, sometimes people just put this is really funny shit on there. Then just, like, you have the actual community where there's personality and there's laughing. And so if Jesse Lee posts anything, it's always going to be hilarious. But you just created this amazing community.
Yeah, it's fun and it's value add, and like, what more could you hope for? You know, people say, go and find your passion and go find something that doesn't feel like work, and this is it for me. It's like fostering the community, it's teaching others, it's creating valuable content for others, it's doing work with people in the community. That is what I would do if money was no object. That's what I will continue to do once money is no object to me, which is the plan. It's not like I'm going to just stop and go sit on a beach. No, I'm going to keep doing the stuff that brings me joy. And it's just great to have found part of my work. Don't get me wrong. Some of my work is an absolute grind and I'm just getting through it. But some of my work is purely like joy and passion filled, and it's what I would do if money was no object. I would do it because it's fun and I love it and it brings me presence and joy.
Yeah, that's how I feel about multifamily strategy. It is like the thing where it's like, wow, watching other people win, and just even having a group where I'm like, I go through hard stuff or I'll have an expensive thing happen, and I'm like, a bunch of people can learn not to spend $4.5 million on a resort that you don't want to own. Like, that's a valuable lesson. If I could save anyone $4.5 million, hopefully it's worth the cost of admission. But those pieces I have felt are very life-giving. I love that you've built that in the community, and your passion for it is very obvious. That makes sense now that you started the show. Yeah, I studied marketing. I'm like, oh, that aligns, because it's a very well structured, very well branded, very well marketed group. The events cannot be, really can't be overstated. They're fantastic. I've seen you just absolutely pack out rooms with investors. It's really fun, the community you've built there.
Thank you.
Highest stupid tax. That is the thing that we don't know what we don't know when we get started. I know you learned a lot on your house. Is that your highest stupid tax? What was the most expensive lesson? It can be monetary or it can just be emotional.
Sure.
Sometimes you have something where I'm like, this destroyed my universe.
Totally.
But what was it? What was it for you? What lesson can people learn to maybe avoid or not have that same pain?
God, too many to count, man. I haven't lost a lot of money. The only money I've actually lost on deals is earnest money on very speculative deals. This isn't a stupid tax because I knew it was very risky, but the payout was also going to be very big. But what we did, me and my partner, is we got six properties that were zoned single family, but the city of Seattle said would be rezoned to multifamily through mandatory housing affordability, a citywide rezoning. And we thought, we're freaking smart. We're smarter than the average Joe. We're going to get these before other people get to them and before the city rezones them. So we got 6 of these projects. Some of them we bought, some of them we just tied up with really long closings, like 12-month closing, 18-month closing, builder terms. And we were either going to sign them or buy them and then build multifamily that we got for a single family price. Smart, right? Well, we thought we were going to make on average $200K per deal. And what happened is that the city at the last second changed its plan and only rezoned half of what we owned from single to multifamily. So we kind of slightly overpaid for 3 single family homes. And then 3 of them we did make money on. Anyways, we thought we were going to make $1.2 million that year. And we made 60 grand. Womp, womp, womp. Because half of it got just tanked, just nerfed. So
I've had deals like that where it was a structure thing, where it's like we made money. We actually made a lot of money on the deal, but we overpaid our investors by like, they all put in 300. We doubled their money in 11 months because we were like, we'll double your money in 5 years. And then we needed to buy them out to refinance 11 months in, and there was no clause for like, if we buy you out ridiculously early, I just have an option to purchase for double what they bought in. I was like, well, congratulations, everyone. You have we borrowed in 11 months since your returns are calculated annually. I'm like, we borrowed at over 100% interest is what we did.
Crazy.
Stupid. We made money, but I will tell you, you may have hit this in your investing career when you were starting. There are many times when I was starting where $300,000 would have made a huge difference in what I could do.
Sure.
It's like, we made money, but I've also run out of money and needed $300,000 quite urgently.
Sounds like maybe more like money was made, and mostly by the investors.
Yes, and a little bit of help. That was right at the end of the bull market, so there's also a little bit of like, how much of that was we bought at the end of the perfect timing.
Sure.
We refinanced into debt that is much cheaper than what we have today on a fairly large commercial asset.
And look, don't sell yourself short on that though, Christian, because guess what? To get the benefit of those crazy timings in markets, you have to be a player in the market. And you have to consistently be a player in the market, because we continue to be players in the market in 2023, but we made dog shit. We didn't make much money. Yeah, we still got a few deals done, but we just kept the lights on. Like, we weren't thriving last year because there was just a slowdown in the market. People wanted 2022 pricing with these new crazy high rates, and so it was just difficult to get deals done. But we continue to be players in the market, and because of that, now guess what? This month I'm closing on 2 amazing projects, and it's not because like I got lucky. It's because I've been a player in the market the whole time, and so through the good and the bad, you have to continue being a player and not get wiped out. That's rule number 1 of investing: is don't lose money and stay in the game. That's the rule, is don't lose money and stay in the game. And if you stay in the game long enough, you're going to get some of those crazy appreciation times that are just awesome. So
perfect. And I know you have a mastermind. What does the mastermind look like through Wari? If someone wants to, is that an event? Is that a gated thing where it's like, hey, X amount of times per year you join? What does it look like if someone wants to learn more structured from you?
Sure. Yeah. So I have the Wari Master Class, which is a 6-week class where we spend a full weekend together. I teach you A to Z. First of all, how do you define what you're looking for? how do you then get that? How do you start getting deal flow coming in, whether it's on market, off market? How do you analyze all those deals, create offers in various ways? How do you close a property in 10 different ways with 10 different types of structures, right? Whether it's a novation, subject to, seller finance, cash, lease option, you got to know the tools of the trade. So we teach you A to Z, how do you find, acquire, close on, and add value to your assets, your first few assets. And that's over a full weekend. Then we do 4 Zooms. We do 2 project walkthroughs, and you get 3 one-on-ones with me. Right now, it's $4,000, and we have had hundreds of people come through it, and all have been quite satisfied. I only got 1 refund request from someone that took the class. He was like 4 weeks in, and I was like, dude, what do you mean? You're doing great. Give it 4 more weeks. If you're still feel like this isn't for you, I'll give you a refund. 2 weeks later, he finds his first flip. 3 months later, he sells that flip and makes 90 grand on his first ever flip. And I'm like, you are the only one that's asked for a refund. And look at you now. And it changed his life, right? And so, love to do the class, Wari Masterclass. You can learn more about it on Wari if you're interested. And then this year is our first year doing a mastermind just for higher level investors. And so we're going to limit that to 25. It's called the Wari Summer Camp Mastermind. In August, we got an absolutely epic luxury lodge, 20,000 square foot lodge on top of a mountain overlooking the San Juans. And that's for 25 higher level investors. They're looking to network with their peers, to mastermind, to get answers to their specific problems, and just to level up with other similar people while having a fun camping-like experience, a luxury camping-like experience in an epic location. So excited for that one as well.
Oh, that is exciting. If you're taking guest speakers for that, I know of one.
Nice.
And then because this guy loves community, I've heard a rumor that there is also a course that has recently dropped for creative finance and mobile home parks. Someone wants to just copy the strategy. Maybe they can't make it out for a mastermind. Maybe they're national. Maybe this is someone who lives in Florida who's not going to drive 15,000 miles over to Washington. Tell us just a little bit about that project.
Yeah, so that is one I'm most excited about because that's where I spend most of my days now, is on seller financed mobile home parks. And so we've got an amazing offering for you. It's myself, Christian, and Cody, 3 guys you know and hopefully love. And even if you hate us, we'll still have you as a student because we are confident that you're going to learn something from us. And it is called MH Park Academy, Mobile Home Park Academy, mhparkacademy.com. We have a crazy deal right now because our first calls are starting next week. So for the inaugural class of Mobile Home Park Academy, we are doing a discounted rate at $1,500. You're going to learn from me, Cody, and Christian through detailed video course modules on how do you start looking for mobile home parks. How do you talk to sellers off market in a structured way? Guys, there is a system and a process for even a simple discussion with an owner to present yourself as a likely candidate for being a purchaser of their asset and for getting seller financing. Okay? You can't just wing this stuff. You can, but you're going to fail 50, 100 times before you figure it out. So why not save yourself that time? Learn directly from us. We're going to do a weekly call with all of you. We're going to answer your questions. I have provided you analysis templates, detailed investment overview package that you can actually create a full investment with. And we have provided you all of the foundational information you need to find, analyze, underwrite, close on, and add value to a seller finance mobile home park. And guess what? These investing principles we teach, they apply to multifamily, single family. You can use these strategies with other assets, but we're going to tell you a lot about mobile home parks, which is just the hottest thing since sliced bread. So
I will say this. I have done a significant amount of deals. I haven't counted. I've probably done 20 plus real estate transaction to build a couple hundred unit portfolio. The best deal I have ever done, dollar per dollar, is the one mobile home park that I recently purchased. Private money. Didn't even need seller financing because we bought 25 units for $300,000 on the water.
Crazy.
We bought it with 13.5% debt. Fortunately, there was a cap rate of 19, so it cash flows very well. And that is a deal that anyone could have bought that was on the market, and we were able to put it together because we have a basic understanding of different ways to close the deal and different creative financing. No banks were involved. We got it done. It needed a little bit of cleanup, and it needed a new septic system for $70,000. It's gonna be worth like $1 million. Yeah. These are things that it's super fun to be on these projects. I've found that mobile home parks have some unique plays to them.
Yeah.
My opinion, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think you can get more creative with mobile home parks than you can multifamily. There's just more options.
100%.
You have individual units. I have a friend who's seller financed a lot of the units back to the tenants because they didn't want to own them.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you can get ludicrously creative.
Oh, I absolutely love chattel debt or lending on this personal property, these mobile homes, selling these to folks. Not only do I like to get seller financing, I like to provide seller financing too. And I love helping people become homeowners. Like, guess what? You're not going to have to deal with me coming and fixing the unit. If you own it, and here's a path that you can own it where I'm actually going to save you money over what you're currently paying. And then at the end of this 3 or 5 year term, you're going to own the home, and then you can just sell it to someone else or do whatever you want. And so, we love to get seller financing, but we also love to give it to people. And heck, and it's where else am I going to earn 12% on 20 grand? I mean, it's just like an easy savings account for me, so.
Yeah, we hope to see you there. I don't do a lot of projects with a lot of different people. This was an interesting one. Jan is worth learning from. The way that Jan runs things is incredible. So it was a really fun collaboration. If you guys want to check that out, mhparksacademy.com. Link will be in the show notes here, wherever you watch this podcast, be that YouTube, Spotify, Apple, you name it, it shows up everywhere. If you enjoyed this, give us a follow wherever you listen. We will see you all on the next episode. Thanks so much, Jan.